Is playing both Saints running backs against Atlanta a smart play in Week 10? Can we now say that Noah Fant is for real? And what do you do with George Kittle on Monday Night Football? Plus, the Week 9 leader in the 2019 FFPC main event, Patrick Siconolfi, is here to talk targeting Falcons and drafts, Darius Geis's impending return, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
With the master rhymer, that's the lead behind the video rapper. You know the truck driver, tapper.
Thanks so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations. Happy November, everybody, to all the Balkaholics and Gerzakinetics joining us. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented to you by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is indeed the patron saint of fantasy football. He is the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show, what should you do with A.J. Green? How good will Chris Herndon be going forward? And the Week 9 leader in the FFPC main event, Patrick Siconolfi, joins us just ahead in about, I would say about 12 minutes or so to talk about his tough lineup decisions this weekend and much more. Shout out to the chat room right now. You guys can post any questions you might have in there. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, at HSFFhour, at Eric Balkman, at David Gerzak is where to do so. Facebook.com/HSFFhour is where to send your messages there. And, of course, if you want to give us a call, it's 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. HighStakesFantasyFootball@gmail.com is where we are going to be reading the emails from tonight. Coming up in our fantasy feedback segment later on in the show, the best friend and the audio engineer is Bryce. The mutual friend and producer is Rob, and he is Dave Gerzak. Welcome in, man.
How's it going?
How are your teams doing as we enter the, as I've been saying, the penultimate week of high-stakes fantasy drafts, or high-stakes fantasy league play?
My private dynasty leagues are all doing great. My Kentucky teams are, they're on kind of on life support. They're not that great.
Yeah.
But that's all right. I don't have that, I think I have one that'll make the playoffs out of three. And, I think the rest of our gang has a few that are.
Well, we got some decent ones. Leroy has a really good one.
Yeah, Leroy is. Yeah, he's pacing the field.
He is pacing the field. We're all chasing Leroy. That should be a team name, Chasing Leroy. So yes, it's very cool that we are. I mean, it's weird because in a couple of weeks we're going to be talking Thanksgiving football games.
Yeah.
And things are moving right along. Do we have an update on when we will be announcing any new details on the world famous 2019-2020 FFPC Playoff Challenge?
We're making website upgrades, site upgrades actually, and we're going to be testing that supposedly late next week, and maybe the week after that. I mean, we want to go live by December 1st, and it's just taking a little bit longer. I'd love to be live now. So
okay. Well, that's the latest update we have. That's fine. I was just curious to let everybody know.
You listened to the after show last week. You might have an idea.
You have an idea of that's one detail we gave away. The after show. I like that.
The after show.
The current show for the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown is out right now. Rotoviz.com/podcast. Returning guest Joe Bianco, who is in 10th place in the FFPC main event. We got into a lot of good stuff on there. Starts at decisions that are facing him this week, as well as a lot of philosophical things with the Browns running backs, Seahawks wide receivers, a lot of good stuff in there. And I want to give a shout out to Joe Bianco because today is his birthday. So happy birthday to Mr. Fantasy himself. And you can download that podcast, rotoviz.com/podcast, also on Apple Podcasts and the Blue Wire Podcast Network. We have a Twitter poll I think we can bring up right away tonight, Dave, and start the show off with some Dynasty talk from our good buddy who's in the chat room right now, Mr. Sports Betting Man, Lance Turbis.
That's right. He had a Twitter poll, and apparently he must have gotten some interesting trade offers, so he pulled it. And the question was, who do you prefer in these trades? Allen Robinson and Darrell Henderson, or is it 4 or 5 2020 first-round picks? And I looked at it, laughed. I'm like,
right.
Obviously you prefer the picks,
right?
So I clicked on it, I made my vote, and there's 50 votes, so that's enough. It's not a true sample size, but
right.
it's enough. And it's 2 to 1 only. It's 67%.
So
one
third of the people would prefer Robinson and Henderson.
Would prefer Robinson and Henderson and give up 4 or 5 2020 first, which is so laughable to me. It's a super deep draft class.
Yep.
I was posting in the chat room that my opinion is the Robinson and Henderson are worth maybe a 2020 first, a random one, and a 2020 second at best.
That seems about right. Yeah, unless you're a big believer or non-believer in Gurley's knee.
Yeah, exactly. And people are, and so on. But I get it. But even Henderson's value has definitely not gone up. And maybe if it's a top 4 2020 first, I may not take that side either.
Right.
I traded a 2020 first for Allen Robinson on a team where I'm going to make the playoffs. I'll probably be 9 through 12 is what I'm guessing was my pick. To get Allen Robinson, I needed a wide receiver. I like him. He's still in his prime. He's good.
Yeah.
If they can get a good quarterback, he's a great player. But that's it.
Decent quarterback class this week, this coming year too. Or maybe Cam Newton will be taking snaps from under center of the Chicago Bears next year, Dave.
Yeah, I really wonder about Newton. There's a chance that who knows? I don't know if he's gonna get back or not.
Yeah, that he pulls a luck.
Yeah, or he's taken a lot of punishment, and his performance recently in his past few years has just not been that great. So they're talking about moving on from him, and at first I was like, oh, come on, that's not going to happen. That's impossible.
Yeah.
But actually, when you look at it, it makes some sense. I don't think that the quarterback they have now, he's averaging, what is he averaging, 11 fantasy points a game?
Yeah, and the last time he played on the road was against San Francisco, and he was turning the ball over. He looked really, really bad. It'll be telling what he does against Green Bay's foundering defense coming up on Sunday, because if he doesn't get it done against them, yeah, I think you have serious questions about the Carolina quarterback position going forward.
Christian McCaffrey can only carry a team so far. And he really can carry them very far.
Well, maybe they just run Wildcat all the time. McCaffrey can throw it. Yeah,
get him 35 points a game.
Who was throwing all those footballs in the backyard to his dad, Ed, to get him warmed up for the season?
Sure.
Ed McCaffrey was catching them. Somebody had to be throwing them to him.
10-year-old Christian.
And there you go. Absolutely.
I don't know if the math works, so no one checked.
But remember, according to Cecil Lammy, is not the best McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is not. Just want to bring that up again.
By the way, I noticed on Twitter I follow Andy Isabella's little brother, so he may not be the best Isabella. They went 10-0. His younger brother, I forgot his name, was Rob Isabella.
I thought it was Joey.
Oh, Joey, there you go.
I will say that regarding the McCaffrey comparison and the Isabella comparison, one of those brothers represents a significantly higher bar to jump over than the other.
Yeah, Isabella's a rookie.
Yeah. I floated out 5 dynasty offers in the Blake Carrington league this week, Dave. Mm-hmm. Devontae Parker for a random second-round pick. And got 1 rejection and 4 non-replies.
Hey, that's about average.
I was saying this to Joe Bianco on the slowdown. On the lowdown. God, Meyer, it's got me saying.
Yeah, the slowdown.
Yeah,
that's funny.
But I was telling him, I didn't necessarily expect anybody to accept them. I was fine if they did. But what I was hoping to get is a counter from somebody, and then once it's kind of like getting a nibble on the hook, and okay, now I can work the rod a little bit here on this and try to land the fish. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, now I do.
No, phrasing. Sexual euphemism. My mind's in the gutter.
You said work the rod.
Work the rod.
I didn't really know what you meant.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Now I do when you said fishing.
Thanks to Football Guys, Roto World, and Rob for tonight's rundown. No, it's fine. Alvin Kamara says
it just means I need to fish more. Actually, I really do.
Let's go fishing this summer.
Let's go.
Alvin Kamara says he's comfortable sharing the workload with Latavius Murray. Remember, Latavius Murray, Dave, had hardly been used at all throughout the season. But when Kamara went down, Murray got 307 yards from scrimmage, including 4 touchdowns. Kamara, I don't need the ball every play. Well, obviously. He's fully capable, too, so I think we'll get a good balance going, and it will be hard to stop. Sean Payton implied that there will be a timeshare, and saying that they're going to be smart with how much they use Alvin Kamara. Dave, I think it goes – hold on.
No, go ahead.
The point I want to make, it goes without saying you're going to play Alvin Kamara. But what do you do with Latavius Murray this week? Because I think he represents an interesting flex for Football Guys leagues.
Yeah, with all the bye week players, I think that it makes a lot of sense to start Murray, and I think he'll do pretty well. But you know what? Also, not just totally just.
If you own both, would you start both?
If I was really desperate, if I was like,
really
like
desperate,
Deebo
okay.
Samuel or something like that.
Right.
But I mean, okay, you guys, you let Ingram go.
Yep.
You signed Murray.
Talking to New Orleans, not me.
Yeah,
right.
You signed Murray as kind of his quasi replacement. Then you overuse Kamara, and then he gets hurt. And then Murray goes in and does what he's done everywhere he's played. And now you're going to use him more? I mean, how stupid really are you? I mean, I know that they're supposed to be such good coaches down there, but why weren't you using him more before? It makes no sense whatsoever. Did you not know the playbook?
We are not privy to what's going on in practice. So if he's not making plays there or if he's screwing up, then I guess I kind of get it. But, yeah, I mean, if he's doing what he's doing out on the field on game day, I don't understand it.
I mean, okay, and this will be the last time I bring up Isabella on the show, but this –
No, it's not.
Well, I mean, tonight, of course. I'll bring him up next week. But, I mean, this brings me back to bad coaching. I mean, Kingsbury – Isabella is clearly a talented player. When he gets a chance to play, he makes great plays. And he kind of ripped on Isabella about his touchdown. He's like, oh, yeah, well, he's fast. Well,
who ripped on him?
Kingsbury.
Oh, Kingsbury, yeah.
It's like, being fast counts.
Yeah.
It does matter, So I still feel very strongly that Kingsbury is misusing him, and then he'll have a great either second half this year or a great year next year. And we'll question Kingsbury's wisdom in leaving him out for crappy, non-talented players like Sherfield or Sheffield or whatever his name is.
Right.
All right,
Dave,
moving on.
Dave, what combo do you like starting better this week, Kamara and Latavius Murray or Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler from Sports Betting Man?
He says James. Oh, I got it. Well, it's too late.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Happened.
Well, what's the better combo going forward, I guess, then?
I think, God, that's tough because I like Eckler better. Man, I don't know.
I would go Gordon Eckler. That's my favorite of the two choices.
I might go Kamara Murray because the team is better, the offense is better.
It's razor thin, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I mean, and they're going to play with leads more, whereas the Chargers are going to be trying to win with a minute left and lose at the end.
Right. Yeah.
All their games.
Chris Thomason on Twitter reports that Adam Thielen was sidelined at Friday's practice. He has already been listed as out. He only played 7 snaps next week. And he's week to week with this hamstring injury. Dave Olavisi Johnson, was sort of, I don't want to say a sexy pickup, but I saw him get picked up in a lot of football guys leagues and FFPC main event leagues. But what about Laquan Treadwell? I mean, are we jumping the gun by rostering this guy because he's looked pretty good in limited time when Thielen has gone out?
I mean, he's not a player I'm that interested in, but I kind of get the argument if you want to pick someone up. I'd probably be
not start worthy though.
No, I mean, I'd rather pick up like Antonio Callaway as a guy that, as someone that actually gets targets, can make some plays. He's coming around now, and he's past the suspension. And who knows? Beckham's kind of a weirdo. He could get hurt or freak out, and Landry too. Who knows?
Yeah.
And he's still getting targets as the number 3 option there, so that's where I would head.
I'll say this right now. You and I are both saying Laquan Treadwell is not start-worthy this week, and 6 teams are on bye. That kind of tells you all you need to know about Laquan Treadwell. If there is a week to play him, it'd be this week.
We also told you not to draft him when he came out. So
that's true.
You avoided a top 5 wasted pick, though.
Right. Evan Engram is listed as out for Week 10 against the Jets. This according to the Giants' official Twitter feed. Sterling Shepard also will be joining him on the sidelines. They both have foot injuries. Rhett Ellison played all 50 of the offensive snaps in Week 6. That was the last time Evan Engram sat, and you would think that he will be in a very similar workload again this week. You look at, obviously, Golden Tate, Saquon Barkley are going to be huge parts of this passing offense, Dave. But, again, 6 teams on bye this week. Rhett Ellison is going to get a heavy workload with no Evan Engram. And it's against the Jets defense that gave the world to the Miami Dolphins offense last week. I don't know if you have any feelings on, certainly you don't want to start Rhett Ellison as your number 1 tight end. But in a tight end premium format, does he make a flex-worthy play for you in leagues this week if you're not desperate?
If you're not desperate, maybe not. But, I mean, I'm just looking at his stats. He had 3 catches for 30 yards on 7 targets in Week 6 against New England it was. And so that's pretty – I mean, it's not bad, actually. So he's getting targets. There's so many injuries there. I think he's worth a look. I wouldn't start him over anyone that's a normal viable player, but there's so many bad options at tight end.
Yeah, there are.
So, yeah.
I had some we'll talk about George Kittle coming up later in the show, but I had some issues with no Zach Ertz this week. Or not Zach Ertz. Who's the guy? Evan Engram, obviously. But there's another tight end that's on bye this week, and now it's escaping me. But you know who is out there in a lot of leagues that I picked up, and maybe not FFPC because it's tight end premium. Mike Gesicki and Jack Doyle. I like those guys this week as potential top 10 tight ends that were available on a lot of waiver wires. So if you have them on your bench too, they make good fill-ins this week.
Totally agreed. Jasicki was cheap too, and he wasn't even available into the Friday night waivers in a lot of leagues, and he's kind of coming around. He's a player I did not like as a rookie. Didn't really like him for dynasty purposes, but he's starting to make plays, so he's someone I'm kind of interested in. He
is definitely. We have Patrick Siconolfi, the FFPC main event leader, coming up in just a minute here. Last thing I want to mention, this is more looking into the future here, but the Thursday night game last night, Josh Jacobs, 16 carries, 71 yards, and a score. Also got 3 catches for 30 yards. The Chargers obviously dominated time of possession last night, so Jacobs got off to a fast start, kind of slacked off after that. But he did touch the ball on 20 of Oakland's 55 plays. That's pretty crazy. He had the 18-yard game-winning touchdown with just a minute remaining, Dave. I'm curious about how you think about Josh Jacobs as we look forward to 2020 drafts. Is this guy in the first-round conversation next year, or is that jumping the gun a little bit?
I think it might be a little bit of jumping the gun. I like him. I don't see that he's getting all that much, as enough usage, so to speak, to really be a player you take in the first. But, I mean, he's definitely a second-round pick type guy, and I guess we'll have to see how the Raiders finish out the season. If there's again, it's so hard for me to like the Raiders because I think Gruden's a terrible coach. So
hey man, he's 5-4 right now with that lineup or with that roster.
Well, yeah.
What's wrong with him?
No, I mean, I don't know. I just don't like him.
Yeah, knock
on wood, like it.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
What a dipshit.
Dave Gerzak.
Such an idiot.
You kidding me, man? What's the problem you got with me, man?
I can't stand him.
You see me on that Hard Knocks show? I'm a fucking brilliant coach, man.
That's great. That's actually really good.
Thank you very much. It's in circulation on local airwaves for a local sports bar. Coach G. We can't say Gruden on it.
Oh yeah.
But it's So that's very cool.
Luckily, this is a low enough rated podcast, so we can say whatever we want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And speaking of which, let's have our guest say whatever he wants as he joins us on the program right now. Heading into the second to last week of the FFPC main event regular season, he finds himself ahead of 2,399 other teams in the chase for the $500,000 grand prize. He's here to talk about not only how he built the team, but how he has managed it to the top. Please welcome into the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, Mr. Patrick Siconolfi. Patrick, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you?
We're doing good. We're doing very good. It's always good to have, we've had a lot of guys in second place, fifth place, top five. This is the first time we've had the leader in the contest. Now, you haven't won any money yet, Patrick, but it's certainly looking very, very good for you to cash this year. But how does it feel to be in first place after 9 weeks of play in the main event?
Unreal, guys. I'm actually pretty shocked about it. This is actually my first time ever playing the FFPC main event. So I actually didn't even know where I was on the leaderboard up until about a week and a half ago when one of my good buddies thought I should take a look. I had no idea the leaderboard even existed. So I'm a little green behind. I'm a little green on the on this competition, but I'm pretty excited for sure.
Well, Patrick, no one ever accused us of having a user-friendly website, so I'm sure that the leaderboard is tucked away in the buttocks of the website.
Yep.
So yeah, so sorry about that. We should have probably been texting you or something.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, that's our bad. But now you know, which is good. We're going to get into your team and fantasy football in general, Patrick. Before we get to it, can you tell the listeners what you're doing for a living?
Actually, I'm an owner of a data and analytics consulting company called Gen Squared here in the Toronto area. So we help companies use data to help beat the competition. So it definitely plays well, and I've got some skills from that have definitely translated well into the fantasy football arena.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're cheating a little bit, though, if you're using this data analytics,
Hey, there's plenty of people using data analytics out there.
But he's good. He's a professional.
There's plenty of professionals using it out there, too.
How is he allowed to play?
He's not the only one.
I'm to check the rules on this.
Hey, you go ahead. Yeah.
What did you major in college, if you don't mind me asking?
Comp Sci and Business Administration. Oh, can you guys hear me? Sorry, I think I lost you there. Are you guys still there? Hello.
Sorry for that blip in the radar there, folks. Apparently the guys behind the scenes have been hitting the sauce a little bit tonight. Patrick, are you back with us?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're coming through just fine. What we heard when Dave asked you if what you had majored in, you said you majored in comp sci, and then we got cut off after that. What else were you saying?
Business. So computer science and
comp
business.
sci and business.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good combo, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I always, I don't want to get into a whole major thing here, but what I have heard by and large over and over again, and it doesn't matter what field you majored in, whether the medical field or entertainment industry, radio, TV, film, journalism, anything like that. Everybody always invariably has said the most successful people, if you're not going to major in business, at least get a business minor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like over and over and over again. Like at least have some sort of business degree that you can carry with you.
Nepotism's really good at having connections.
Nepotism's huge. It's just tough to major in it.
Right.
That's the issue I always had. I tried to major in nepotism, and then they said, "Well, what's your name?" I said, "It's Eric Balkman."
You said Hunter Biden.
And they said, "We know your father. You need to find a different major." So that was my issue with that.
Now we'll actually ask some real questions.
Get into fantasy football.
Sorry,
here.
Patrick. This interview will get better.
Right.
So only one main event for you this year. You're still ahead of everyone else, 2,399 other teams, including some people who own like 50 or 60 or 70 teams. That's great. And you have the 12th pick?
Yeah, the 12th pick.
Patrick, this also isn't allowed. The 12th, everyone, it's always the one pick that always is as well. So,
right, yeah.
So anyway, you got the 12th pick. What was your strategy for assembling the team, though, when you knew you had that pick?
Well, again, for me, it's really just about trying to get the best available players, and it's tough when you're at the 12th pick. But one guy that I was pretty high on going in, and I thought I definitely would see him fall to me was Dalvin Cook. So I was all over that, and when he fell to me, I was ecstatic about that because I really felt that of all the guys that weren't in the top 5, he's probably the one guy that could be there at the end of the season. So he's definitely played some dividends for me. Beyond that, I mean, I was really high on getting some players from some high scoring offenses that I thought would be in a lot of shootouts this year. So I was pretty high on getting some Atlanta Falcons and some Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, I didn't really manage many on the Bucs, but I did get Julio and Ryan and Hooper, which I was pretty happy about as well.
I want to get into that for sure. And the other thing that we should mention, David just said that this is your only FFPC main event team this year. You had told us earlier this is your first FFPC main event. And the reason you found out about this was actually one of your buddies in another league that you're in, right? Yeah,
we're in this league. It's called the Fantasy Football League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. We've been playing this thing for 25 years, and we've
That's
got
great.
this trophy that looks like the Heisman, and it's as big as it's probably a little bigger than the Heisman, to be honest with you. And it's called the Cat's Ass. So we've been playing for that thing for 25 years, and one of my good buddies, Lee, has been in the league with me for a long time, and he's been in the FFPC. And he's been trying to egg me on for a few years now. He keeps coming up to me. He said in the past, he's done really well in the league, and given that I'm a better fantasy player than him, he said I definitely should join the FFPC because he's been doing pretty good. So, I joined. So, and here I am. So the league is awesome, bunch of great guys, and we take it pretty serious. I'll say the one thing about that league in 25 years. I've got one of the best win-loss records, but I've never won. So it's been crazy. I've been in the finals quite a few times, but have lost. So I can't. Seems like I've got a stroke of bad luck in the finals. So I'm hoping this year's a different year.
Be crazy if you end up losing that league again this year, but in your first year of the main event, you end up taking home $500,000. That would be quite the story.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You get all the other guys in your league to join.
Yeah,
you guys keep checking my butt all year long, so why don't you join the FFPC?
There's a couple guys in it, so they're I'm not quite sure where they are, but they've and Lee plays quite a bit, and the other guy's name is John. He's in it, I think, for the first time this year as well. So
that's great.
Well, it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. It's crazy because I've had a lot of success in that league in the last 3 years. I think I've only lost 3 games in 3 years in that league, but every time I get to the final, the stars do not align. So it kind of sucks. But hoping this year things change in both leagues. Would love to win both, to be honest.
Patrick Siconolfi, the leader of the FFPC main event heading into Week 10, joining the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour tonight with Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. You had mentioned earlier when we were talking about how you put together this team, these Falcons that you had drafted in the passing game, Austin Hooper, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. Was that part of the plan? I mean, were you targeting players on that Falcons passing attack, or did it just fall into when it got to you on the turn, you're looking at best player available, and it just happened to be Falcons at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. I mean, like I said earlier, I really had a couple of teams. I like to, I draft players, but I also try to draft situations. So one of the things actually that I follow a lot of is the fantasy football scientist who has this metric around shootout score, and he basically applies that to players. And basically the shootout score indicates the chances that team and that player are going to get into games where their offense is a good high-scoring offense who's playing a kind of a mediocre defense, and a team that has a mediocre defense. So, typically those are kind of the all the factors you want in every fantasy football game. So I saw that Atlanta had a lot of players with a high score there, and Matt Ryan was one, so I was pretty high on him. I was, being in the 12th pick overall, I also saw Julio come up, and he's a pretty safe guy to pick at the wide receiver spot. And so, I kind of just fell in line, and then Hooper came up. I mean, I missed out on the big tight ends. They went really early, and, I got Hooper really late. So huge value for me. I can't remember what round it was, but it certainly wasn't anywhere near the first few rounds. So.
Yeah, Hooper was really interesting because it seems like a lot of people, he was kind of like, the last guy in that tier, maybe the top 7 or 8 guys. And it was almost like the remorse pick, like, no, I'll just take Hooper. He has no upside. That was kind of the thought process for a lot of people. Were like, Hooper is good for like 55 and 600 and like 5-6 touchdowns, whatever the number is. But obviously, it's clearly going to be way better than that finish for him. Don't you think, Paul?
Yeah, and I was super thrilled in the offseason that I sold him for the 204 pick in one of my dynasty leagues. Absolutely thrilled. Thought I made a genius decision. And now it's looking like an awful decision. Could have used him. I thought, hey, man, I got Greg Olsen, O.J. Howard, Trey Burton. What do I need Austin Hooper for? Oh, he's only the best option I had at tight end.
What did you do?
Traded him away for the 204.
Who'd you pick?
I don't remember. It's some stone that's doing nothing. Yeah, no, Isabella wasn't around at that point. No, I don't remember who I picked at the 204.
Was Noah Fant available?
He was. I did not take him.
Okay.
Because I had already taken Hockenson, so I wasn't going to go tight end. Yeah, no, I wasn't going to do that. Yeah. So it's one of those things. Speaking of Noah Fant.
Yeah, Noah Fant. So he had a 75-yard touchdown last week against the Browns. Do you think this is a sign of things to come for the second half of the season for Fant? Is he kind of a late rookie breakout at tight end?
I hope so. I picked him up actually in both my leagues. So the Cat's Ass League and the FFPC League, I have him in both leagues. I picked him up this past week in the waiver wire in FFPC. I think he's in a ripe situation to flourish. I mean, I really think Flacco's just been awful the first half of the season, and that QB situation I think has gotten better, even though they've got a rookie in there. But it's he seems to have the legs to be able to move around in that offense and alleviate some of the challenges with that offensive line. And if you look at what Fant's done, I think there's a bit of a regression to the mean. He's had some early unfortunate drops in the season, and he's definitely got the skills and the speed to really, you saw in that run, he can take it to the house. He's got the jets. So, my hope is he'll help me out, and I think he really has an opportunity to excel in the second half of the season.
Fellas, you can't spell fantasy without Fant, so certainly this could be a big thing. Things to, and people say, thank you very much. And people talk about you, and you mentioned it, Patrick, with Brandon Allen throwing him the rock. Any young player, rookie, whatever, but Flacco was terrible. I don't know how much of a downgrade this is.
Who's great though is Flacco's agent.
Oh, yeah, totally.
What amazing.
He's the real MVP, as the kids say.
So good.
No, but and even if Drew Lock takes over at some point when he comes off IR, I really don't know. You talk about that. We'll talk about Cortland Sutton here. Actually, we'll talk about Cortland Sutton right now. But I don't necessarily think this is a downgrade for Broncos pass catchers. Fant and Sutton. This at worst could be a lateral move. You have both Cortland Sutton and Tyrell Williams, Patrick, on your main event team that's in first place right now. Who do you think has a better second half between these two receivers going forward? Obviously, Tyrell Williams fought the injury bug. Looks like he's back. And then you have Sutton getting the new quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Sutton. I think if you look at the two, Sutton's got more skill. When you look at him, he definitely looks like the more talented player. I think Tyrell right now has probably the better quarterback. But if like I said, I don't think that the quarterback situation got any worse. In fact, it probably got better in Denver. And so I can't imagine he's going to do anything worse than he's already done. He's done well up until now, so I can't imagine he's going to regress much. Whereas Tyrell, it's kind of hit and miss in that offense. They really like to target the tight ends there. So he's been a guy really dependent on touchdowns for most of the season. So I'm going to go with Sutton on this one. And in fact, this week I would have probably sat Tyrell if I absolutely didn't have to start him. But I've got pretty much, I think, 8 guys on bye. So I had no choice.
Oh, that's pretty funny. So this week, speaking of players on bye, the Redskins are on bye this week, right, Paul?
They are indeed.
So Darius Geis, he's coming off IR. He's coming back. And Adrian Peterson's actually doing relatively well. He's not the best pass catcher, but what do you think the split's going to look like between Geis and AP, starting next week?
Yeah, that's tough to say. I drafted Geis actually pretty high in the FFPC, so I was pretty high on him and thought he'd have a really great season this year. And actually was hoping to roster him again, but just missed him on the waiver. I think I got overbid by about $20. So, I think he's got all the talent in the world. I think the challenge has been the health, the knee health, and I think that's what really the wild card here. Obviously, given where he's coming from, he had the ACL and some of the, and then I think it was a meniscus issue. They're going to probably bring him in slowly. So that's I suspect he's not going to see an even split or even a majority or an even split this coming week, and they'll probably try to fold him in, bring him in a little slowly, and we'll see, I guess, how the knee holds up. So I think you're not going to see that, an even split, I think, first couple of weeks, but hey, he might be the guy near the end, and he might help some teams in the playoffs.
By the way, let me just say this. I'm going to put this on record, Balky.
Okay.
I think bringing back Mahomes this week is a mistake for Kansas City.
Really?
Yeah, I think they should let him take the week off. And, why are you bringing him back now? You don't really have to. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, that's interesting.
So if he gets hurt, once again, I also didn't think they should have QB sneaked him when he, dislocated the kneecap.
You have made that point abundantly clear on this program.
Protect your franchise quarterback at all costs. There you go.
I say at all costs.
I agree with you guys on that one. I agree on that one for sure.
I'm just curious. I'm looking at this right now, Dave. The Chiefs are at Tennessee this week, who played some pretty good football last week. Do you think that Reed thinks that he cannot win that game with Matt Moore? Is that what you're telling your team?
I think you should say, your team's good enough with Matt Moore. Look at all the receivers they have are outstanding. I know Tennessee is a Jekyll and Hyde team.
They are.
They're kind of like the Chargers in one. They'll go on the road and win like 42-3, and then they'll go home and they'll lose games too by the same score.
By 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, they don't make any sense sometimes. So who knows?
We're talking with Patrick Siconolfi, the leader in the 2019 FFPC main event, heading into Week 10. And looking at your lineup this week, Patrick, no Phillip Lindsay, no DJ Chark, no Cortland Sutton. They are all on bye. Did you consider putting in Gerald Everett or Eric Ebron, in this tight end premium format, over A.J. Brown in your second flex spot, or was that more of an easy decision for you as they have this juicy matchup at home against that Chiefs secondary, which leaves a lot to be desired?
Well, I trust me. I've tried considering everybody. There's not a lot out there. It's slim pickings this week, and it's really tough. I don't know if I've ever seen a week in fantasy football where we've had this many people on bye. It seems like a lot more than I've ever seen. But I think it was harder earlier on in the week when I saw that that Corey Davis is out. That to me was made it an easy decision to go forward with him. I think that's given the matchup, given the lack of other targets there, I think it made it a lot easier later on in the week for sure.
I think Ebron's an interesting start, Balky, because he had a conversation with the coaching staff this week about his usage. I think it's one of those squeaky wheel things, and they're playing Miami at home, so they'll probably run up the score a little bit. I think Ebron gets a touchdown.
In one of my leagues, one of my dynasty leagues, I have Corey Davis in the starting lineup right now, and I will have to take him out. But you know who I have on my bench? You guessed it, A.J. Brown. One of the secrets in fantasy, Dave, for fantasy success, loading up on all those mediocre receivers on below-average passing offenses.
Make sure you get Humphreys, too. He's the...
Oh, don't worry. He's on that team, too.
He's the third cog in that clogged-up engine.
All I'm missing is Tajay Sharp, and I believe that's a royal flush down the toilet.
Where's Taywan Taylor?
I don't think he's on that team
anymore.
No, I don't think he is. I think he's gone.
All right, so speaking of players that suck totally and are monster disappointments, and I hate them, are you dropping...
Wow, you hate A.J. Green?
Yes.
Wow. This is powerful stuff.
I don't own him in Dynasty, so I totally hate him. Are you dropping A.J. Green if you own him now? But I did get him in redraft. Anyway, sorry. Are you dropping A.J. Green? Because I dropped him the rest of this week.
Yeah, I think he's done. I'm not sure if he's coming back at all, given that injury. I mean, if you guys heard much more on that, I've been reading up, and it seems like an injury that potentially could be, to keep him out for quite an extended period of time. So, I don't see him coming back into the fold this season. And even if he does, I'm not sure I trust anybody on that offense right now.
We're going to get into Joe Mixon. We have a Joe Mixon email coming up later on in the show, Dave. But I will say this about A.J. Green. Just you don't even have to read between the lines on this. This dude got hurt on a bad field in the preseason.
Yes.
They have handled him with kid gloves despite losing every single game thus far.
While also extending Tyler Boyd and not extending him.
Yep. And they keep him past the trade deadline. They don't move him. Now all of a sudden he's practicing. In his very first practice back, what happens? Pushed it too hard, has a setback, and allegedly. And now you're talking about the remainder of the season. What's the motivation to bring A.J. Green back out there? And even, that's assuming that he's going to get healthy at some point. It took him this long to even start practicing again. He's not a young man by NFL receiver standards anymore. And you're talking about bringing him back before the season ends where he still has a chance to be fantasy relevant. I don't really see that happening. Well,
I think Sports Betting Man has the best two-sentence analysis of this. A.J. Green is a jerk-off, period. He's milking, period.
And
so there you go.
Now, hold on. Now, I will say this. I don't necessarily think that is a bad decision for A.J. Green either.
I agree, too, yeah. If I was his agent, I'd be giving him that same advice.
And, you're trying to cash in on another contract and pushing yourself for an 0-8 team. I don't think necessarily does it.
Cincy's a terrible organization, so move on to anywhere else other than Miami or Cincy.
Well, what about Washington?
Yeah, they're pretty bad too. I would even go to I would go to the Raiders.
Oh, I would too. Yeah.
If they're going to Vegas, why not?
Yeah. Well, even if they weren't.
Even having to listen to Knock on Wood Gruden, it's fine.
Yeah, tell you something about this A.J. Green, man.
Please, no more.
We'd love to have him on our football team. He's a difference maker out there, man.
Do we have any emails today?
Yeah, we do, actually. Sorry, none from Coach Gruden. But we do, Patrick, have one from Cincinnati, actually. Jim in Cincinnati writes, hello, Patrick. Right now, Galladay is wide receiver 11 and Marvin Jones is wide receiver 15. Do you see them keeping up that pace the rest of the season, making both of them must-starts? That is Jim in Cincinnati. Thank you for the email, Jim. Galladay and Jones, they've been quietly really good this year, Patrick. Are they must-starts going forward, given what they've already put up?
I believe in Galladay. I'm not sold on Jones. I think he's up and down. He could still put up some decent numbers the rest of the season, but I'm not buying the Detroit offense maintaining these types of results. So I'll stick with Galladay. Jones, I think he's more a wide receiver 3 or 4 down the road.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I own Marvin Jones in a couple leagues, And I've actually started him more than I've sat him, but I thought the weeks I sat him, I felt pretty good about it. I never.
Did you sat him during the 4 touchdown week? Because
no,
I
started him that week in all my leagues.
Well, so, I think that I think Jones, he's getting targets. I respectfully disagree a little bit. I think that Jones is going to kind of maintain in that neighborhood of value, and that's okay. I mean,
Matthew Stafford is questionable this week for what it's worth.
Well, I mean that matters. I mean,
right.
For this week's decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. One more email here for you, Patrick. Alex in Syracuse, New York. How do you? All right, I don't know how to read this. How do you Devin Singletary's role with the Bills going forward? Whoever wrote this.
Hey Rob, clean up those emails.
Yeah. We got to proofread these better. How do you see? I'll just put it in. How do you see Devin Singletary's role with the Bills going forward? Is he a potential FFPC league winner? Good work in the main, man. That is Alex in Syracuse, New York. Alex needs a grammar lesson. But Devin Singletary, Patrick, what do you see with him? Because it seems like he took over that Buffalo backfield last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the guy they want in there. Long term, that's going to be their workhorse back. But I still don't see him. I mean, it's the Buffalo Bills, so I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that offense. I mean, I think he'll put up reasonable numbers. I think last week was a great week for him, but I can't see him putting up those kind of numbers week over week. So I think he'll be a good RB2, maybe RB3 down the road. I don't see him as being an RB1 type player that's gonna take a team to the championship. But I mean, he's a nice surprise for sure, and I think we've been waiting a while to have him put up some points in that situation.
One final question for Patrick before we let him go, Dave. Does that sound good?
Sure thing. What do you think about Singletary?
I like him, but it's unfair because you know how I feel about guys on my dynasty teams. I unfairly say that they're awesome.
Oh, that's right.
No, but the thing is with Singletary, and I think you made the good point. If you look at what Buffalo wants to do, I don't think they see Frank Gore as the guy who's going to carry him even through the rest of this season. I think they want Devin Singletary's game-breaking ability in there. This is a guy who didn't test all that great at the combine metrics-wise, but on the football field, he gets it done, and he's getting it done with Buffalo, playing behind Josh Allen, having a guy like John Brown on the outside taking the lid off defenses. I think there's a lot of stuff available for him for fantasy as long as he stays on the field and he doesn't fumble the ball. There's great things going for it. I think he's a top 20 running back the rest of the way.
Top 20, wow.
Top 20, yeah.
Well, they do have a good defense. They're playing with leads a lot of times, and I agree with you. He's not all that talented of a back, but even being a regular just-a-guy type talent means if you're playing with leads, you're going to get 20 carries.
Plus, they're in the same division as the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. That always helps.
That does help a lot. All right.
Buffalo could win 12 games this year. How insane is that?
That is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are going to be excited up in upstate New York.
And the last thing you need is getting Bills fans excited about that team. I read an article on ESPN.com this week about these people. These
people go on ESPN.com?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, wow.
The Bills Mafia, the stuff that they do before these games, they have a porta-john where they hide beer in there. They pour condiments all over guys in the parking lot before. And you remember they jump off trucks into flaming folding tables.
I didn't know.
Oh my God, it's insane. Micah Hyde, who played for the.
Very interested.
I'll say this. Micah Hyde, who played for the Packers for like 4 or 5 years. And you know how we love our tailgates and partying in Northeast Wisconsin and Green Bay. His wife goes in the parking lot, with these Bills games to check out what the Bills Mafia is doing, and she is in awe. I mean, she's seen the Packers side of it, and she's seen the Bills side, and she's like, "This is unbelievable here." They're on a different level in Buffalo, and you couple that with a great football team, the world could frankly end.
Yes, I'm sure the Bills Mafia is really vaulting Devin Singletary to just another level.
Same page, you and I. Same mind right here.
All right, Patrick, last question. We're looking just for this week. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say my hometown is about half an hour from Buffalo. Trust me, the last thing I want to see is a successful Buffalo Bills team. They go nuts, and the Buffalo Bills fans are the craziest guys in the world. So I had to grow up with those guys, and I'm hoping they don't go too deep into the playoffs, so things might start getting set on fire around the hometown.
One of the
Patrick's a little biased.
Well,
I mean, he has to be.
Yeah,
he
for
has to
sure.
Deal with that.
The other thing I remember, this one guy in there, he makes Italian wedding soup, and he's been making it in the same gardening watering can for like 20 years.
All right,
and
this is getting disgusting.
It's incredibly disgusting, and these people love it.
All
Anyway,
right.
It doesn't
go
surprise
ahead.
me, guys. It doesn't surprise me.
Oh, man. All right, so we're looking for a player that a lot of FFPC participants will be starting, but they should actually consider benching this player in Week 10, as well as a sleeper that definitely should be started, but a lot of times he's currently on their bench.
Well, I'll tell you guys, full disclosure, I'm a big Steeler fan, but I think Juju's going to have a tough time this week. So he's a guy I'm a little worried about. It's tough to bench a guy you pick that high, but I think he's going to be in really tough against that Rams secondary this week. So that's one, and it's obviously dependent given the bye week, who you could start that's going to be better than him. But he's definitely one that I would consider if you have more options. The other would probably be Robbie Anderson. Darnold has not looked good throwing the deep ball, and really that's his bread and butter pass. I don't think Darnold just hasn't had enough time in that pocket to get the ball down the field. That offense has not looked good. So I'd say those are probably the two guys that I would consider benching this week that might be in people's starting lineup because they picked them probably pretty high in the draft. In terms of sleepers, we talked about one. I think A.J. Brown, definitely one that I would recommend having in people's lineups this week. And another one would be Darius Slayton. I think with Shepard out, and I think given it's the Battle of New York, I think we might have a pretty good high scoring match there. So Darius Slayton might be a guy I'd look at putting in if he's on your bench. And then one last one, a real deep sleeper. Now that Sanu is out and Ryan's back in the fold in Atlanta, a guy like Russell Gage might be, if you're really desperate, might be a guy you might want to throw in there. You guys still there? Hello?
I believe we are back live here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football. I apologize for the issues tonight. I just want to make this clear. This was not a Blog Talk Radio issue the second time. It was another issue on our end. Good thing we have our audio engineer, Bryce, right on top of it, and that is why he is my best friend, ladies and gentlemen. I believe we still have Patrick. Patrick, you still with us?
Still here, guys.
You are the man.
He's the best guy.
Yes, you are coming through.
We're the worst. You're the best.
The perseverance. This is what it takes to get to the top of the main event, ladies and gentlemen. Stuff like this. Patrick,
Bulky usually pretends to root for whoever the guest is.
I'm definitely rooting for Patrick. Yeah. So we got the Juju Smith-Schuster call. Do you have a sleeper for us in Week 10, Patrick?
Yeah. So my sleeper, we already talked about A.J. Brown against the Chiefs would be one. The other was, I think, Darius Slayton with Shepard out. And if you're really looking for a deep sleeper, how about Russell Gage in Atlanta now that the news has been shipped out to New England? I think that's, if you're really desperate, that's a guy you might want to look at.
And there will be some desperate teams. I know I have one team this week that has 8 guys on bye. 8. It's insane. It's like I drafted to have my whole team on bye in Week 10 and really set myself up for disaster. A guy who has not set his team up for disaster, Patrick Siconolfi, the FFPC main event leader heading into Week 10. Congratulations on the success you've had so far, Patrick. Good luck, not only this weekend, but the rest of the way. Who knows, your first foray into the FFPC might be the most profitable one you could ever imagine. Thanks so much for not only putting up with us tonight, but enlightening us, entertaining us, informing us. We really appreciate it, dude. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot. Good luck as well. And hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
After Week 16, we'll talk to you when you win the big.
That's
big
right. That's right. That's what it's all about, Patrick.
Looking forward to it. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Have a good night.
All right. You bet. You do. You too, dude. This is great. Patrick Siconolfi joining us here on the HSFF Hour tonight. What a good dude. I can't believe,
that's Spectrum Internet.
You would have hung up after 5 seconds of being disconnected.
Yeah, the first time. I mean, like, this show sucks.
Right.
Out.
Right. Well, you say that before we go on the air every week.
Well, I do, yeah,
and then I always have to, pour yourself a glass of wine. Come on, it'll be fun. Speaking of wine.
Yes, do you like the good wine I have?
No. I was going to ask you, did Kurt Kikas hook you up in Vegas? I totally forgot about it up until now.
Hook me up.
He said he was going to bring some wine out there, and then I saw him briefly at the viewing party on Sunday at Caesars, and I forgot to ask him.
He didn't, but I mean, it's not like I'm not taking it personally.
No, I was just curious if he gave you a bottle, like I would dip into it just to give feedback on that.
No, I don't have a.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't have a Kikas bottle.
Kikas bottle. There's a Kentucky team name. All right, let's get to some emails. We've got about 7 minutes left in the show. I think we can pound these out here, Dave. First is from Will in San Francisco. Hollister is already owned in my league, and I don't know if Kittle is worth the potential 0 on Monday night. Would you play Jason Witten or O.J. Howard instead of Kittle? That's Will in San Francisco. Dave, George Kittle did not practice again today. He is looking very, very doubtful for Monday night. Now,
he does have Saturday.
He does have the Saturday practice. If he is out there on Saturday, I feel pretty good starting him on Monday night. But if he doesn't go tomorrow, I think you've got to start somebody else.
For sure. I totally agree.
And even if it's Witten or Howard, you're good with that?
Yeah, I prefer Witten to Howard because he's
a
better football player. And even the stupid coach is talking about – I'm sorry to rip on coaches all the time, but the coach is talking about Howard and that, that they love his blocking, which is fine. I mean, for the team's sake, it's fine.
Yeah.
For our sake, it's terrible.
It's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. Okay, so I guess it just boils down to this. If Kittle practices tomorrow, you start Kittle on Monday night. If he doesn't practice, you play somebody else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
There's maybe a little bit of a dribble in news Sunday morning.
There could be. And Witten plays Sunday night, too, so you would have that extra time if you're waiting on him.
Yeah, that helps.
Tony in Windsor, North Dakota, excuse me. What's up, guys? If Chris Herndon returns this week, Are you playing him right away? And is he a must flex in my football guys leagues as soon as he does play?
I would say the opposite.
Okay.
He's a must not flex.
Okay.
No, I'm not playing him.
Really?
Yes.
This is and you were singing his praises in 2018.
I think he's a very talented player, and I still think he's a very talented player. He's hurt. He's not even the starter right now.
Right.
Wasn't Griffin starting?
Griffin.
Yeah,
Ryan Griffin, yeah.
Yeah, why is all of a sudden Herning going to go in there and get a bunch of targets?
I don't think Ryan Griffin's all that talented.
No, that's true. But again, we're back to NFL coaches. What do you think they're just going to say? Oh, hey, Griffin, good job. I'll go to the bench. No, they're going to probably split time at best.
Right.
Hernan is out for me entirely until he plays and has a really solid game.
Is he rosterable?
Barely in redraft, in my opinion.
But I mean, tight end premium leagues.
I mean, yeah, even then.
Wow.
Barely.
That's just crazy.
I mean, he's done nothing.
Well, he's been
all.
hurt. He's been hurt. That's why.
He's been hurt, and then he's gotten re-hurt. Maybe he'll get re-hurt next week.
Re-hurt.
It's re-hurt.
Re-hurt.
He's gotten re-hurt already.
Yeah. I think that was a character on that What's Happening. Re-hurt.
Hey.
Yeah.
I've been re-hurt.
That was D, right? I think D's the one I always said. Hey.
Yeah.
That was D.
That was a fun show.
I barely remember it. Yeah.
Good Times, the Jeffersons. I mean, they're all different, but they're all pretty good.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you said they're different.
Sanford and Son.
Yeah. Wanna. Good stuff.
They're all enjoyable.
Jeff in Eagan, Minnesota. Whatever happened to Nick at Night? All those classic TV. Did that go off the air?
Nickelodeon's still around.
No, but Nick at Night, where they had all those classic TV shows, like Three's Company. They'd show. What was the Ted Knight show? Too Close for Comfort was on there. All in the Family.
Yeah, they're probably showing commercials for vacuum cleaners now.
You know what's funny is we've become so old now. The classic Nick at Night is probably like Hanging with Mr. Cooper and Perfect Strangers.
Speaking of Mr. Cooper, is Mr. Cooper going to play this week?
Do we have a question about that?
No, but I'm just asking in general. I wonder.
I am like 95% sure he plays. Here's what I read on him this week. He had an MRI, and the results backed up what the Cowboys already thought. Amari Cooper said he's pretty confident. He said he loves football. He's going to be out there. So I am starting him with – I only own him in one league, but I'm starting him with confidence.
Yeah, right on.
Okay. Is that what you're doing too? You're not starting him with confidence, apparently, but you're starting him.
I'll probably start him. Evan Carrington. Yeah, Too Close for Comfort. My favorite character on that show is, of course,
Jim J. Bullock.
Yes, Monroe.
Yeah,
he was
Monroe.
He was great.
Yeah, he was. Who are the women on that show? Do you remember?
I forgot.
Yeah, me too. I just remember those two guys.
I mean, Ted Knight and Monroe, their dynamic was great.
Yeah, Ted Knight's dynamic with anybody who is remote, he's such a.
He's like the original conservative.
He is on the far one side of the spectrum. Like he can't get, and anybody who's even middling or just on the other side, and that's what made him so great with Rodney Dangerfield on Caddyshack. That's what made him, he was sort of the he was kind of the aloof, full of himself anchor on Mary Tyler Moore. And so his interaction.
I didn't watch much of that show.
Oh my God, the interactions of him and Ed Asner on there, and even Mary Tyler Moore's character, and Betty White, and the woman, she just died a couple of years ago. She was the mother-in-law on Everybody Loves Raymond. I can't remember what her name was.
Yeah, I know the face.
Georgina Kashner. Does that sound right? I think that's who it was.
You're entering the realm of Bulkopedia.
She was it's not like I watched every episode of Mary Tyler Moore, but I watched enough where it was really great. Oh, and then Murray on that show was great. It was a great cast. All right, moving on. Jeff in Eagan, Minnesota. Dear Carl and Derek, this is a decision I haven't wrestled with all season, but I am this week. Do I play A.J. Brown over Tyler Boyd in Week 10? Dave, what would you do if you were facing that decision? Now that we know that Corey Davis probably will not be playing, A.J. Brown gets the Chiefs secondary at home. They are 6-point dogs in a total of 49.5. Tyler Boyd, on the flip side, is at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Total of 44.5. They are 10-point dogs with Ryan Finley starting at quarterback.
I'm so certain Boyd. I feel like Boyd is way better of a talent than A.J. Brown. He's more productive, has been more productive. The problem with Tyler Boyd is that at the end of the first half, you're going to be tweeting at me and being like, Gerzak, you're an idiot, because he'll have one catch for 2 yards. But by the end of the game, he'll have like 7 for 79 and maybe a touchdown.
So it's all garbage time for him. Mostly.
Well, yeah, I mean, the team is garbage, and their whole year is garbage. So like 3/4 of their games are garbage time. I just don't think. I mean, AJ Brown could have like a 2 for 20 game or something like that. It's funny. I saw a tweet about Corey Davis. I forgot who it was, but he was like, "Oh, great! Now who's going to get me 2 for 13 on 7 targets?"
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, because it is funny, and
Yeah.
it's why? Because it's true.
Yeah.
And I don't see that AJ.
But
AJ Brown could be. I mean, he's talented. I mean, he could be better, but
all right. So let me
he's still a rookie, though.
just get real about Corey Davis here for a second.
Yes, he sucks.
Now you say that, but I mean his quarterbacks that he's had over the course of his career, in my opinion, have also sucked.
Yeah, that's totally true.
So I don't know how much you can. Quite frankly, I don't know how talented Corey Davis is yet.
Okay, so I'll tell you this. I'll admit this to you about Corey Davis. In Fantasy Sharks League, one Dynasty League I'm in, 20-man rosters, that's as deep as usually it goes a little bit higher for some of the leagues I'm in.
Yeah.
20-man rosters, Corey Davis got cut, and
Wow.
I spent 80 out of my $200 bidding dollars to get him.
Wow.
So I mean,
okay, so that's like 400 out of a.
Yeah, so
1,000.
I spent for what I consider big money to get and roster Corey Davis on a, and it's a valued spot. So I don't love him, but I think there's still plenty of potential for him there.
I feel like Corey Davis got cut in was it Corey Davis? I think it was. He got cut in one of my dynasty leagues too, and I think I spent like 300 something. Yeah, it was like $350, and I got him. And the next closest bid was like 179 or something like that.
I think that's totally worth it. I mean, he's a pedigree player with, like you said, bad quarterback play on a crummy offense. It just doesn't do much. They don't have enough. They don't run him a lot of plays. Things can change for the guy, and he could end up being like a fourth-year breakout or whatever.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. And maybe his next team, maybe the Titans move on from him, and they just decide, hey, we paid Adam Humphries, we got AJ Brown, we're gonna let Corey Davis go when his rookie contract's up. Maybe they'll. I don't know if they. I still think they pick up his option, but we'll see what happens there. In any event, it doesn't matter because there's gonna be a new quarterback in Tennessee next year, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. All right.
Some rookie that's gonna
Justin Herbert
suck for a while. I don't know.
We'll see. Mike in Iron Mountain, Michigan. Here's a question I never thought I'd ask: Ronald Jones or Joe Mixon this week? I appreciate all that you guys do.
How the mighty have fallen.
How the mighty and how the lowly have risen, as it were.
There you go.
Ronald Jones gets an incredibly juicy matchup this week as he is hosting the Arizona Cardinals. That's a total of 51.5 with the Bucs 4.5-point favorites in that game, Dave.
Wow.
We already mentioned that Joe Mixon is a 10-point dog with a total of 44.5 at home against the Ravens. Who would you start, man? Would you be able to do it? Do you have the stones to play Ronald Jones over Joe Mixon?
I do, actually. I think that you go with what the probable game script is, and Mixon is incredibly disappointed owners this year, and the team is disappointed, and they're huge dogs, and so I get it.
Is Mixon going to be a huge value in fantasy leagues next year? Does he unfairly fall too much? Is he a third-round pick next year now?
I didn't draft Mixon. I
didn't draft him either.
I've never thought he's been that good. I thought he's been overrated, and I continue to think that about Mixon.
He did lead the AFC in rushing last year.
Whatever.
Well, I mean that is something.
Fine. What was this? Where do you rank as a fantasy?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you.
Last year, probably 20 something.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it was that low.
I don't think he's all that great. I just don't think he's all that great. So no, I'm not interested in him. And I know that he has huge fans out there. And those huge fans should be trying to trade for him in Dynasty because his owners are probably willing to give him up.
Let me paint you a picture here, Dave.
A picture?
A picture. You have the 101 next year. You take Christian McCaffrey, okay? In the second and third rounds, I'm trying to think of a good way to do this here. Let's say Juju falls to you at the 212. You take him.
The answer about the third round is no, I'm not taking him.
That's not my question. The 301 is another receiver. Who's a receiver you like in the third round? Let's say Chris Godwin, okay?
Sure.
Godwin.
He'll probably go for them, but that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, well, whatever. So your team is McCaffrey, Juju, and Godwin. You're loving life. Comes down to the 412. Joe Mixon's out there. Would you take him?
412, yes.
Okay. But you wouldn't take him in the third? Too early?
No, I would not.
Okay.
Last year, Joe Mixon on a points per game basis was running back number 9. Yeah. So that's pretty good. He averaged 17.38 points a game last year. It's impressive. It really is. You remember too, one of the big things that Cincinnati concentrated on was improving their offensive line. They used that. I think it was like a top 15 or a top 10 pick on that big left tackle out of Alabama. Yeah, and they've gotten hurt. And he got hurt right away. So and then they lost the left. I think it was their left guard that they lost right away to injury too. So I think there could be some bounce back potential with Mixon next year. I think you're right, but I mean it all does go back to game script a lot of times for running backs. If you're on a team that's 3-13, 2-14, 4-12, you're losing a lot. You're losing a lot of the time. And like Football Outsider says, that, winning is what causes running games.
Yeah.
Winning is what causes all the – it's really not the other way around. Everybody thinks, when you run the ball, you win. No, it's the other way around. When you win, you end up running the ball a lot because you're winning. And because they're not winning, they're not running the ball. So you have successful teams that run a lot. So there you go. So if you don't think that whatever they do in the off season is going to lead them to a 7-9, 6-10 or better record,
then stay away.
I would still stay away. I mean, unless, like you said, if it's a 4-12 pick, well, I mean, at that point, how many starting running backs do you have left? I mean, there's not that many.
Other things to consider on that to kind of drive your point home. Cincinnati is not going to have A.J. Green next year, most likely, and they're going to have a new quarterback next year, most likely. So there could be a lot of change on that offense, which isn't necessarily always a good thing. You think Zach Taylor's going to be the head coach next year?
I mean, probably. They'll probably give him one more year.
Okay.
Andy Dalton will probably be quarterbacking with the Broncos.
Yeah, that would be funny. Or the Bears. We'll see. Kenny in Clemson, South Carolina wraps it up for us this week on the HSFF Hour. Should I play Josh Allen at the Browns this week or roll with Matt Ryan in the Big Easy? And we did get news today that Matt Ryan is, in fact, going to go. He practiced today, and he will start against the Saints. You look at these two games, Dave, Atlanta at New Orleans. New Orleans is a 14-point favorite. The 7-1 Saints hosting the 1-7 Atlanta Falcons.
I'll take the Falcons plus 14.
Total on that game is 51.5. That wasn't the question, but I'm going to get to this in a second. And then Josh Allen on the road in Cleveland. 3-point dog, total of 40.5. So what are you doing here? Matt Ryan in the higher scoring game or Josh Allen in the lower scoring game? Both are on the road.
I'll go with Matt Ryan myself.
I think I'd go Josh Allen.
I get it. I mean, he runs the ball more.
It's so close, but Matt Ryan on a bad wheel, I don't know.
Well, it's not like he needs a wheel to run around.
He might.
Why?
The offensive line hasn't been great in Atlanta. I mean, he might have to extend some plays. Josh Allen can do that easily.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll still stick with the.
I mean,
it's
close. It's close. Should we put 5 on that one?
Sure, why not? That'd be fun.
Hold on. Let me just look at this here for a second. Make sure I'm not screwing myself.
I mean, whatever.
All right. What the hell? So Matt Ryan.
I'll take Matty Ice
versus Josh Allen.
Yeah. Total
fantasy points.
Sure.
In Week 10, I got 5 on Josh Allen.
I got 5 on Matty Ice.
I got 5 on it.
That's a divisional
good.
game, right?
Atlanta is, yeah.
Yeah, divisional games get played closer than people think. I think the plus 14.
Even though with a 1-7 team?
Yeah.
Playing for next year?
I think they're playing to do all right. I mean, they're not playing to lose. They're still professionals. If they've given up completely on the coach, I don't know.
I think if there's one coach that I am sure that is going to get fired, it's Dan Quinn at this point.
Well, maybe they like him. 14 points in the NFL is a lot. And I think historically, when you get over 13 points in the NFL, I think the win rate against the spread is like 37-40% or something like that. It's not very good.
Pop quiz.
Even the Patriots, anyway, go ahead.
How many punters has Atlanta had so far this season?
Who knows? I don't know.
Just take a guess.
2?
They're on their 5th punter, Dave. Punter number 5.
They've
been punting so much that they're just they're ruining the legs of these poor punters.
These guys are like Spinal Tap drummers?
That's exactly right. Atlanta Falcon punter is the new Spinal Tap drummer. Spontaneous combustion when they're out on the field.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's insanely disgusting.
Sports betting, our Clemson 81-16 in the chat room. For the first time in a while, the Saints D is balling out. And I agree with him, actually. The Saints D is playing really well.
Marcus Davenport, the guy that they got in that Packers trade, has been great.
They're very talented. Very good defense. So that's the thing to worry about, of course. I mean, they could crush. It's possible they crush them like 48-10 or something like that. I think it's gonna be a close game. Divisional games a lot of times.
Well, you just said you would take the Falcons plus 14.
Yeah, I would take them. I mean, they generally come to play.
That's a lot of points, man.
It's when you have like a game like the Packers going cross country to play against the Chargers in a non-conference, non-divisional game. Then that's when the teams that supposedly are going to win, they're favored by 3.5 points. That's when they lose. It's like, who cares?
Our friend Farrell Elliott on the Kentucky podcast this week, the KFFSC podcast, brought up that take from you about the Packers-Chargers game. Yeah.
Well, he had already told me he had bet on it. I'm not sure about that one.
The way he phrases it is like, I had already made a small wager on the Chargers, but I left it out there. Didn't hedge. And
he said he bet the Packers.
On the Packers. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, man.
What about this week at Lambeau? I'm going to be at the game, so I'm interested.
I don't know what the line is. What is it?
5.
5.
Yeah. Who would you bet in that game?
I bet Carolina.
Carolina +5. I think the total is like 48. How do you see that?
I don't know. That's close, pretty close.
I'm taking the Packers in the over.
Okay, Leroy.
Here we go.
All right, Leroy.
Let's saddle up and ride, baby.
My buddy Leroy, he doesn't take many under.
Aces Rebels, our good buddy Lexus in the chat room. Who likes the Bears versus who likes the Lions this weekend, or both fantasy-wise? Do you like? I mean, obviously the main players on those teams. You know, you're going with. Well, how many main players are there? I guess Galladay, Marvin Jones, and Allen Robinson. But outside of that, Montgomery. Yeah, I guess he's been pretty good the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Total on that game is 41. There's a lot of low totals this week. A lot of them.
A lot of bye weeks and low totals.
Yeah.
This might be a low-scoring.
Yeah, it's going to be insanely low.
So try and pound as many of the guys in there as you possibly can in those high-scoring games.
Lions.
You're fine.
Sorry, Lions are 3-point dogs in that game. So you like Galladay and Marvin Jones, and then for the Bears you like Montgomery and Robinson. Nobody else in that game?
I mean, no one I can think of. No.
T.J. Hawkinson is the only other one I would consider.
Yeah, I mean, in a low-scoring game, Hawkinson's kind of up and down, coming around. He's still a rookie, but he does have the potential to have a touchdown, have a good game. I don't know.
You think he's a breakout next year?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Is he a top 5 tight end in 2020, or is that going too far?
That might be a little bit of a stretch. I
so
think
top
it's
10 for sure.
Totally possible, but I think top 10. He's he should be a lock for top 10 given his draft pedigree. He's looking pretty good. I think he'll be decent. I mean, there's a chance he's still bust.
I am much more happy with his future than Noah Fant's future. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I feel like the organization is better run. The offense is better, and as a better overall tight end, I think he's shown that. But Fant. I think Fant has more variability. You know, he might be a big-time player, or he might really not end up being that. I mean, you saw with that 75-yard touchdown. He's got the speed.
Does have the speed for sure. Remember, you can't say Hawkinson is the best without spelling Hawkinson.
Oh,
and on that low note, we're going to end the show this week, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank our guest tonight, Patrick Siconolfi, the leader in the FFPC main event heading into Week 10. Good luck to him the rest of the way. Always good to hear from the leader of a contest. I want to thank Dave Gerzak, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you for putting up with our couple of audio delays tonight. I apologize for that, but thanks for hanging out, dude. This was a lot of fun. Remember, Joe Bianco's on the High Stakes Lowdown right now. You can listen to that at rotoviz.com/podcast and stream it on the Apple Podcast and Blue Wire Podcast Network as well. I hope the ball bounces your way. It's going to be a rough Week 10. Hopefully you can pull out the win. And, of course, your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com that was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
We're on the famous floor, even more so if we on tour. Me and E explore the country, wondering about the evening before. Trying to explain where the time went, while other rappers find a studio to grind in.
You know, in the latest episode of Do As I Say, Not As I Do, I checked one league after we made that I Got 5 on it wager with Josh Allen and Matt Ryan, where I have both Allen and Ryan as my quarterbacks.
And you currently have Ryan
going? I have Matt Ryan going, yeah. Like, what a stone. It's such an idiot.
You have to switch it now.
Well, I will now. Or do I just do it? You know,
you can void the bet if you want.
No, I'm not voiding the bet. Come on. My co-host on the show with Leo and Balky, every week he picks, when we have to pick our Packer predictions, he picks that the Packers are going to lose just so he's either right or they win. And then we have this Beat the Bozos segment on our local fantasy show where you have to pick a quarterback, running back, and receiver, and then we have a caller calling in to try to beat us. And he picks 3 guys he's going against in fantasy every week, like that he's worried in his matchup. So either he's right and he crushes Beat the Bozos, or he wins his fantasy matchup.
It's very interesting.
Yes, it is interesting, and I chide him for it all the time because he is deliberately misleading people on the show.
Chide, I like that word.
Not unlike what we do on this show. Hopefully we did
don't
it.
mislead people.
Well, not directly, but sometimes
love Andy Isabella.
That is true.
For president. Ahead of Bloomberg.
Hold on. Let's do this. I got 5 on Andy Isabella having a better NFL career than Joey Isabella.
I'm not betting.
I figured as much. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Good luck in Week 10, and we'll talk to you next week.